Let's take control of our prison housing units, television rooms, day rooms, and jails, and let's implement discipline again, the way it should be. Yes, I know New York and California are leading the way in giving inmates everything they could possibly want to feel like they're at home in their own living room. But that does not mean they did not have to follow the rules. Hi, I'm Gary York, True Prison Stories. Please subscribe if you like this video. In the top right-hand corner is a photo that was placed on one of the correctional websites. And the person asked the question when they posted this photo, what do you see? And immediately I saw inmates without the proper attire, without their full inmate assigned uniform. They do not have shirts on. Their pants are sagging and their underwear is showing. Bottom left corner, you're going to see an inmate smoking a cigarette, or another inmate lighting a cigarette is what it appears to be. I do not know where this is, but obviously the inmates are not being supervised, because those inmates should be in their cell until they put on their proper attire and get rid of their contraband. Now, where are the supervisors? Where is management? I don't know if this is a jail or a prison, but I know in many of the jails, supervisors can actually flick on their camera from their desk. They don't even have to get up and look at the dorm and see what's going on in there. And if you don't have that capability, then supervisors, you should be up and walking around. And when you see something like this, you should be telling the dorm officer, tighten up this dorm, tighten up this day room, fix this problem. There's inmates smoking. There's inmates running around without shirts. Lock them down and let's do a shakedown. And let's tighten up this ship and let's make them do what they're supposed to do. Yes, in this photo, I'll put it up again, you see big screen TVs or game TV screens, and they're playing games on them, okay? We know that that's coming. We know that that's being implemented in many prisons across the country. They've already got the tablets. They've already got some internet. Now they're going to have the games, thanks to New York and California leading the way in the new prison system. But I'm going to tell you something, folks. We need to still take control. We may have to let them have all these items. And in some cases, it may keep them occupied and it may keep them out of trouble. I don't know. That's yet to see. I want to see when we have fights over the game controls. And I want to see when inmates start busting up these screens and in a riot and tearing them off the walls and breaking them during a riot. And then let's see how well this works. But for now, I cannot say anything until we see how it runs. But no matter what the inmates are given by outside influence, by our administrators, by our government, no matter what perks they're going to receive, we still have to have control of that dorm. And this picture, again, I'm going to put it up again, it just tells me there's so many things wrong. We've got supervisors not doing their job, we've got officers not doing their job, and we've got inmates, to me, looking like they're in control, like they're running the show. And the officers having an easy shift, and the supervisors are in their office watching an NFL football game they can't miss. Anyway, better shut my mouth. But we know some of these things happen, folks. It's the truth. I always know how to make people mad. But here's something I want to point out. Okay, even with all these perks, the New York Times on June 16th, 2019 posted, inmates can legally possess marijuana but not smoke it. California courts rule. Please. Please. Have all the marijuana you want. Just don't smoke it, guys. So what are we going to do? Sell it? Come on. This is just getting out of control. So now what? Now what happens when we do a shakedown and we catch inmates with marijuana? All right, man. Have to let you go on this one. California court says you can have all the marijuana you want. Well, it doesn't say all the marijuana you want, but it says you can possess marijuana. I'm sure If you got the court transcripts, there's a certain amount. But anyway, that just makes no sense to me at all. Is this the way we're headed? How about this one? The Democrat Chronicle, February 7th, 2019. Inmates in New York get a major boost in their wages. Okay. If they put in a good day's hard work, maybe we can live with that. But see, here's what's happening. Inmates want more money. Inmates want to carry their marijuana around. So obviously New York and California agree with them. But yet they're going to continue to riot, continue to run around the day rooms looking like this. Oh, somebody said, no, they won't riot. This will keep them calm. Well, ABC, August 14th, 2019. More than 50 inmates injured in a riot at a California prison. Folks, you can give them all the perks you want. They're still going to riot. They're still going to tear shit up in the dorms. Excuse my language. This is why I'm trying to make a point here with these things. This is why we still have to keep control of our dorms and our day rooms. Even if all the inmates get these perks. Look, officers, some of you don't like it. I don't like some of these things either. So let's just put it this way. We may not be able to stop some of the perks because admin, government, outside influences don't listen to what we have to say on the front line. They don't have to work the front line. And this is what we're going to have to deal with. So we have to deal with it. Let's just face it. Let me throw that away. We have to deal with it. So if we have to deal with that, then we as officers expect to be backed up when we put discipline in our dorms. Because the minute we put discipline in our dorms, there's going to be inmates. I want to see the sergeant. I want to see the lieutenant. I want to see the warden. I want to see the assistant warden. Whoever they think is going to listen to them, that's who they're going to call for. You know the inmates' games. They're going to call for the one that will listen to them. And they know which warden, which sergeant, which assistant warden, which captain might listen to them and side with them. That's why every one of you supervisors and administrators need to back up the front line and say, nope, you're out there without your shirts and you're smoking. We're going to lock you down. We're going to do a shakedown. The officer's correct. We're going with what the officer tells you to do. How many of you have that where you're at? You're backed up by your administration. And how many of you are not? It ticks me off when administration doesn't back you up. Short scenario, I left the state prison system, went back into uniform to the sheriff's department. Yes, I went for more money and a pay raise and a bonus. I'm sorry. But I made more money as a deputy in the jail than I did as a senior prison inspector in the state of Florida Department of Corrections. That's another thing that bites me. You know, the inmates get a pay raise. We just talked about that earlier, but the officers don't. That's another kick in the butt. But anyway, I'm in there. Nobody knows me that much from the prison system. A few people do because they went over there as well. But now I'm just an officer in the dorm, working the dorm again like I did when I started as a correctional officer in the state prison. And an inmate's in the shower complaining. He doesn't want to get out of the shower because it's count time. Well, I've got the prison mentality. I'm going to go get him out of the shower. Well, anyway, an inmate went to the other officer and asked for the sergeant, so he calls the sergeant down. That, you know, I talked to the officer on the side about that. We can handle our own business. But here comes the sergeant, right past me and the other officer. What's the problem here, inmate? Well, I'm in the shower and it's count time and I had soap all over me and I needed to finish up. Okay, finish up. Hey, let him finish up and then he can go in the cell. Just count him in the shower. What the hell did you just do? Was I ticked off? But I'm not I've lost all my rank now, and I'm back to being on the floor again. My choice. I'm not proud I can do this. But that sergeant just undermined me and the other officer, and he was ticked as well, the other officer. And I said, well, you're the one that called him down here. From now on, we'll run our dorm. from now on, we're going to have to run our dorm if that's the kind of backing we get. That's just an example. The heck with calling the sergeant. I'm going to tell the inmate, nope, you do what I say. You want to talk to the sergeant, you put in a request to talk to the sergeant. You think I'm going to bow down and run call the sergeant right now? That's why I was kind of upset at the other officer. We don't do that. They can talk to the sergeant, put in a request, and explain your problems later. Right now, I'm running a dorm and I got count. But see what happens when supervisors don't back you? That's a huge issue. What about a fellow officer not backing you in the dorm? That's really a huge issue. That ticks me off as well. After I left the jail and the boot camp, I went and worked as a bailiff. I was working Monday through Friday as a bailiff, and I would work one weekend day at the jail on overtime. And then we also would have it set up to where several of us bailiffs would work our 8 to 5, and then we would go eat dinner from 5 to 6 and go to the jail, which was very short-staffed, and work from 6 p.m. to midnight for more overtime. So even when I became a bailiff, I didn't leave the jail. And I was working one Thanksgiving day, because bailiffs are off Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Yes, I know. But I worked Thursday and Friday to get me 24 hours of overtime. And I'm working at the jail on Thanksgiving, and an officer is allowing the inmates to hang their wet clothes that they wash in the sink over the visitation booths. Now, in the jail, there's a visitation booth with a screen and a phone where inmates go up to visit. Now, I am working with one officer in a DSS, civilian, and the officer, he's got 2 years in. Nothing wrong with that, but here's what I'm getting at. I went out there and made those inmates remove those wet clothes because some of the inmates were complaining about the stinky wet clothes being on those screens while they're trying to talk and talk and have visitation. Well, I'm not doing it as a favor to the ones who don't like it. I'm doing it because the rules say we don't hang clothing over and around the dorm. I come back. I go to the other side, which is another 120 inmates, and I do my rounds in there. And I come back in, something else. I think we had med pass, and I did med pass. I came back, and I looked, and the inmates had rehung their clothes back on the visitation booths. I looked at the young officer, and I said, what the heck is going on there? Let them do it. It's no big deal. I said, the heck you do? I said, I just told them not to do that. You know I went in there and told them not to do that. And you know darn well they're not supposed to be hanging clothes over here. I went back in the dorm. The inmate that was an old-timer, I could tell he was an old-timer. I looked at him. He saw me coming, and I could see the look on his face. I said, get all that off, or we're going to have some huge problems. And I'm going to have to do some write-ups and do what I can to get this stopped. And you know what I'm talking about. You undermined me to that officer. Fix it. They fixed it, and I went back and explained to this 2-year-old officer that it's much better to make them follow the rules and get them under control than it is to be lazy and allow them to run the dorm the way they want to. He didn't like it. But I'll tell you what, I may have only been there Thursday and Friday, Thanksgiving, and the day after, but I was going to do it the way you're supposed to. Again, where were the sergeants? And I knew in my mind that this particular shift I was on had 2 newly promoted sergeants. Doesn't mean anything. They could have been the best sergeants in the world. But in my mind, I'm thinking something's wrong. They have cameras, and they could see me going in there and telling these inmates things. They could see this officer going in there not doing his job. Where were they? Where were those sergeants to fix this? Anyway, just a couple of examples I've dealt with and why we have to take the dorms under control or the inmates will roll right over you, baby. They steamroll right over you. They know which officers make you follow the rules and they know which ones don't. And it makes it so hard when one shift lets the inmates run freely with their shirts off, baggy pants, underwear showing. And then the next shift comes in and does not allow that. It makes it so much harder for those officers to try to implement the rules. So you lazy officers that don't want to do your job need some training. And we need some remedial training for you guys. And I'm going to tell you, we have to take control of our dorms or we're in big trouble. We're not going to win some of these big battles on the outside that the legislatures and the prison administrators are bowing down to outside pressures. We're not going to win those battles. We can win the battle in the dorm, though. We can win that battle. Just something to think about today. I blabbed for 15 minutes. I'm sorry, but this was a topic that kind of got to me a little bit with all these things. Thank you for watching True Prison Stories. Please subscribe. Gary York.